Hello again, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Fun and Games Podcast. I am Matt, aka Stormageddon, and you may wonder why Jeff isn't doing this intro. It's because I'm rolling solo to do a special preview of Overwatch 2, and I've been joined by the Overwatch 2 expert, the Overwatch guru, also incredible writer and podcaster, the one and only Kenneth Shepard. Ken, thank you for joining me.
Cheers, love. The cavalry's here. That will never happen again. You're the only person that's ever going to get me try to do a fake British accent.
Look, you know, it's recorded for posterity, so you can't escape it.
Because I'll never listen to this show. I'll never be able to go back and listen to this one.
So, Ken, I'm having you on because I wanted to do a little preview. I was lucky enough to get into the early access for Overwatch 2, and this is a game that during the pandemic has brought a lot of joy to you, me, and a good group of our friends. We've played it quite a bit. I will say up front, I'm aware of all the stuff going on in Blizzard Activision. It's really shitty. We want better for those workers. We hate the people running the show, but like, I also wanted to, because I was given this opportunity to talk about it, there's no ethical consumption under capitalism. We're all making the best choices that we can. If you don't want to engage in Overwatch or this episode, I totally get it. But we're going to talk a little bit about our early impressions of Overwatch 2 because we were in the multiplayer beta. But to start, Ken, you've been playing Overwatch since launch, right? You've been playing the game pretty much since day one.
I mean, I played it like enough that like my hour count would probably make somebody I was crazy enough to have played it for 6 years. But no, I've crammed thousands of hours in the course of only about 3 years. Actually, I kind of came into Overwatch when they revealed the Sorted 76 was gay, and I, as a person that wrote about queerness in video games, was like, okay, I'll bite. I'll show up for this. And it got its hooks into me and did for about 2 of those years. Then, you know, once everything started coming up with Activision Blizzard, I kind of stepped away just because, like, this feels gross, this feels weird, and I think, like, it took a lot of time, and sort of, you know, seeing a lot of the people that are, you know, the workers that are in Activision Blizzard, you know, really rallying around, you know, a game that they love and, like, a group of workers that they care about, that they want better for. It's kind of, like, you know, I think a lot of people are kind of dealing with the nuance of various labor issues in not just the games industry, but just like broadly, like how do we support the workers while not also like branding their work with like a scarlet A or something like that. So but in some sense, I've been in every pre-release beta playtest, whatever, of Overwatch 2. So I put, I think about solid 40, 50 hours into Overwatch 2 as it exists right now.
That's impressive. And yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you brought that up. I think, like, for me and Jeff, we were big Diablo fans, and we were going to play the Diablo 2 remaster, talk about it on the show, and then we kind of also, like, just stepped to the side and went, maybe we'll wait. But you're right. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, we want to support the developers regardless, because the devs working on it day to day are putting in a ton of hard work, regardless of the conditions and the bigger problems at Blizzard Activision. So, I mean, to start, for those who are wondering, Matt, you talk a lot about how you're not good at first-person shooters. Ken can attest to that I am not. However, I am a pretty good support player, and they have also shepherded me through the other experiences. And what I like about Overwatch 2 so far out of the gate is the smaller team just feels a little tighter. I do miss having a second tank, but I'm curious about your early thoughts on the changes. You know, there were a lot of big changes for Overwatch 2, and people kind of were in uproar to begin with, like removing a player of the team, changing certain characters to other disciplines. Do you think, now that you've spent so much time with it during this preview, that most of those decisions were justified? Do you agree with them? Do you think that they've worked out well?
Well, I'm in like a weird spot where I think, like, I don't know that it was necessarily that I agree with them or disagree with them. I think I simply have adapted to them. I think they're, and you know, that's what happens with a lot of like service games. Like, you know, they make a sweeping change to the meta where, you know, there's a lot of huffing and puffing about it, but like, it's still the game that you play, so you do end up gravitating towards it anyway. I think as a primarily damaged player, I think I find less, you know, I feel less stonewalled throughout the game because like there aren't 2 tanks anymore, and I think kind of like converging on a tank both defensively and offensively makes the game just feel a lot faster and a lot, you know, a lot more twitchy than I think it used to be. In that, you know, your mileage may vary on how you feel about that. So I think in the long run, you know, the biggest drawback of that is that like we've got one less person in the voice chat that we're playing with. That not like a public voice chat, but like our friend group chat. We're like, we got a 5 stack instead of 6 stack, and that is a bummer across the board because like, you know, you just got like one less friend that you're hanging out with in the same capacity. But in terms of like, you know, actual mechanically, I think it has really changed the game in a way that does feel like meaningful, in a way that I think more longtime fans are going to notice more than like somebody who's, you know, just coming in trying to see what it's all about. And this is what I said on RIP, thanks for the knowledge. When I was talking to John Warren about it, it was like I feel like a lot of the changes in Overwatch 2 feel like minutia. They feel like these things that aren't necessarily back of the box quotes that you put on, like in the bullet points that you put trying to sell people and stuff. And I think that's kind of where Overwatch 2 has kind of been in this weird space, because like it doesn't feel like Blizzard is really able, like, I mean, you can communicate to, the hardcore player, but like to the average person, a lot of it just kind of feels like a whole lot of nothing. I think
Yeah.
as far as like the moment to moment playing of the game is, where I think the more the people that have kind of like absorbed this through osmosis, I think the bigger draws that it's free to play. Like the biggest barrier to entry is gone, even if it meant that it had to pivot its entire business model in the process.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that you bring up the free to play thing, because like, so we played a bunch together, and like it got to a point where I was just sitting on crates and opening them and getting all this cool stuff. And one of the cool things about this transition to Overwatch 2 is they're merging, like they added crossplay before Overwatch 2, but now they're merging your stores, as it were. And so like now everything that you've earned, you'll be able to access from whatever platform you play on, and you can play on multiple platforms. But yeah, so the storefront's changing. We used to be able to earn crates and then like it would be, like random card packs essentially. But now it's like more other free to play games. The biggest one, of course, being Fortnite, where it's like, here's a store, you can put your credits towards this costume or that voice line or this package. I'm conflicted about it. I really liked surprise packs and random like rolls. It can be frustrating, but it's like opening a Christmas present, and I'm Jewish, so me saying that is something. Like I like the surprise. I like, oh, I just got this legendary skin. I had no idea. Buying the exact thing you want is also great and fun, but it's different. And I'm curious how you feel about it, especially since you've put so many hours into the original game, and now we've got a version in the beta where we can buy some of that stuff and access some of that stuff. Do you think it's better for them economy-wise? Do you think it's better for the players? Do you think it's worse? Are you kind of indifferent? Like, I'm curious how you feel about this major change to how you get things in the game.
I will say that this has probably been one of my bigger complaints about the review period that we've had, because in all honesty, I don't feel like any of us have gotten a great sense of how that progression is going to feel, because there have been like designated playtime hours where
Right.
okay, this is like 2 hours here to play some games, and you get so many levels, like through they got like a battle pass system now. You get so many levels through that. A lot of the stuff that you can just buy outright has been geared towards characters I don't play, like the new ones. So like I'm just like not really spending any of my credits on that yet. But the battle pass is kind of like the primary means that they are giving you new things, whether that be voice lines, costumes, highlight intros. I'm still working at this point trying to get the Soldier 76 highlight intro they added. And because there have just been such small windows to actually play and earn experience that goes into that, it feels like it's been very, very slow pace. And, Overwatch 1, I've had days where I spent 3 to 4 hours on a call with people playing, which has not really been the case for Overwatch 2 yet. And so I think it's kind of hard to have a frame of reference to how well, like what the friction is going to be between those systems and the old. Because I do think but a few years in, the loot boxes were negligible to me, because I'd already unlocked most of the things that I wanted and been able to, like, I got enough like currency to buy things outright that I wanted. Like, as of Overwatch 2 going down tonight, as of when we're recording this, I've unlocked everything for Soldier 76, and he's my main character. So like I'm like, okay, I'm good on that front. So like it has in a roundabout way served me well up to this point, but I also recognize that the chance of that is frustrating to a lot of people. So I think in the long run, I'm going to probably like it better, just because certainty is nice. When it comes to monetary and time investments, because like you could spend, like with loot boxes, you could spend days trying to find like one thing and not get it until, and especially when a lot of sort of like time gated through events, there's a lot of uncertainty there that I think it fed into what a lot of people call loot boxes gambling, and they pretty much are, like, as long as you're not I mean, like, whether you're paying for the real money or not. So I think in the long run, I think I'm going to like the system better, but I don't really feel like I have a sense of just how bad the grind is yet, and I don't know that we'll really get a sense of that until a couple weeks down the line, when people have been like really playing this on a daily basis without all these limitations, and really kind of like what is like the time investment it takes to get to the end of the battle pass is what I'm curious to see.
Yeah, because I mean, we're recording this the Sunday before the game comes full online for the PvP multiplayer, and it'll air the day before. And like I'm of two minds about it. I'm excited that we're gonna get the PvP at least up front, but like I'm someone who likes the single player experience and single player games, and we don't know a lot about this single player other than what they've shown so far, which is admittedly very little, and they have not given us a clear path to when that's coming, right? We know it's coming, but the only thing they've given us is on October 4th. You can play the full version of the multiplayer version of Overwatch 2. That'll be live. And I guess I'm just curious how this Battle Pass experience might fold into the rest of that. It's all speculation at this point. We don't have any information on it, but like, I'm curious, will you get certain stuff that's only for single player? Will you get like cosmetics or cool weapons or whatever that only do that? Like, or will those missions feed into the currency? It just seems a little scattered still at this point. I'm excited to play with people. I am bummed, like you said, that we lost a sixth person in our hangout, and so it makes the group a little tighter. But I found in our experiences, we've been playing a lot with friends Jesse Vitelli and Alex Van Aken and Eric Van Allen, two names that I hate saying back to back. And like the experience has been mostly joyous. We enjoy playing games together and goofing off and playing together regardless. I think the group just gets joy out of the games we play together, but I think there is this joy and excitement to jump back into Overwatch when it's fresh for a lot of people. Do you think that this like free to play model will get people to try it that maybe previously were like, I don't know that Overwatch is for me, or I didn't like it and I don't want to spend the money on the full game or whatever?
Yeah, I think that's like the framing they've been given is that they want to bring down as many barriers to entry as possible, and that I think was always kind of along with the fact that Blizzard just kind of like stopped supporting Overwatch 1 in any meaningful way because they were working on this game. I think that was probably a lot of the reason that Overwatch 1 became kind of stagnant, is that the player base became walled off. It was walled off in a way that like alternatives weren't. Like, people don't have to pay money to play Fortnite. They don't have to pay money to play Apex Legends. And so I think Overwatch has always been like a weird kind of like outlier in terms of what usual live service game, or like I guess where live service market is these days. So I would like to think that it'll bring more people on. I do wonder how many people might be, because they also have talked about doing a lot of these things like this first time user experience where they'll kind of like lock off certain characters up to a certain point. And like I said, some people talked about how they did not really get Overwatch until they played characters like Diva, or somebody that was, like a lot of people kind of do gravitate towards like one or two characters that they really play in these games that kind of like really click and that they feel the most effective as playing. And if you would have locked off a lot of those, which I mean, it was, I think, around half the roster, it's still going to be like locked off when you start playing. Which I mean, there's still a pretty widespread characters that you'll be able to play right out the gate, but you do miss a lot of opportunities for a player to click with a character that they just kind of like stumble into. Because I remember, like when I first started playing the game, like I was trying to find like a damage character and a support character and the tank character. Like I had no idea what tank character I wanted to play, and then I saw Orisa being played enough by other players that I was like, okay, I'll try her out, and then she became my primary tank. And it feels like a lot of the, I understand the intent there that you are trying to help it not seem as overwhelming to a new player, but I hope that at some point Blizzard kind of like looks at that and it's like, maybe we need like an opt-in, opt-out situation, because like this seems like a really strange kind of hamstringing of a game that kind of lived and died by its fluidity. Like it allowed you to, change characters on the fly to like really adapt to what your enemy team was doing. And in some ways, I think they have kind of done some stuff that I think has ultimately like probably been beneficial to the game. I think it like roll queued is not the most popular thing in the world, but I prefer it just as a person that like would like to like I would queue it for games and like I want to play soldier, and then everybody else on the team picks damage. Like, okay, I need to switch to Baptiste because nobody else is going to heal. So I think that has been a good thing in the long run in terms of just like helping people kind of like define roles and also like just be like a cohesive unit that is helpful and productive and is able to get things done, instead of, because I mean, everybody has the characters they want to play, but now you can just queue it specifically for them, and that's the best way to go about it, I think. But this feels like maybe just a step too far in terms of like kind of holding the player's hand in a way that I think kind of just goes against the sort of magic that there is of like finding the hero that you really jive with, because like now you have to like it was some ridiculous number of games, or like you had to win some like ridiculous number of games to like, you had to unlock a lot of these characters, and it's just a questionable choice, even if I kind of understand the logic behind it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think one of the magical things about playing Overwatch with friends who also know the game so well is like, I like Ashe as a character, but if I'm not doing the right kind of damage because I need to spray and pray or need to be more accurate, you'll tell me, hey, Matt, why don't you play this other character I know you like because it'll go better. I don't have that inherent knowledge, and if I can't just pick whoever, I might not be able to figure it out. I mean, the way I found my tank to be Sigma was because I just kept trying stuff. And then I realized, oh, I actually do really good damage as Sigma. I understand how his abilities work. I would have never figured that out if I couldn't just try the character with no restrictions. You know, Lucio is my favorite healer because I don't have to target you. I can just do healing. And that's really good for me as someone who's not good at aiming. And I would hate for players to be restricted that way. Also, if you're a veteran Call of Duty player or whatever other shooter, and then you come to this game where you can't access every character, you're going to be like, well, I know how to play shooters. I may not know how to play this one. My skills are translatable. Why can't I just pick whoever? I do think that it is an odd choice. I get the idea, though, to want to avoid the overwhelm, because that said, when I used to play League of Legends all the time, and then I stopped, and then I went back recently because the aforementioned Alex Van Aken was playing. And I jumped in and I went, I know these 3 characters and don't know any of these other free characters. What the hell? Who the hell do I play? And so, like, I think like a rotation of characters in a game like that makes sense because you kind of focus in for people. Well, I know I like damage. I'll try one of these 3 characters that are available to me. But with Overwatch, I just don't feel like, I feel like the base level of a lot of the controls for these characters are pretty universal, and then their specific skills and skill set you pick up as you play. If you restrict that, they're just going to be like, I don't know, I'll pick this character. And it also might, do you think that'll affect the meta of the multiplayer? Because certain players can only pick certain characters, you're going to see those characters more often, right? Because they're the only ones available.
Yeah, in theory, I think often meta gets usually kind of determined by the top level players anyway. So I think a lot of that is going to kind of slide under the radar of those things. I think it will, like, for like lower levels of play, I think there will be kind of more of like I would like to say that there will be kind of understanding that certain characters are going to be more readily available. But I also do, just like as I ponder like various things that this might lead to, I do wonder about like if a newish player comes into an online lobby and some shithead is on there and is like, why can't you just use this character? I literally don't have that character unlocked. They don't let me pick this character yet. And that like, there's part of me that, like, worries about what that's going to do to just the simply playing the game. But I also, like, as a person who, like, the first time I ever logged into an Overwatch server with voice chat still on, got called a slur for playing Sort of 76. I was like, oh, okay. I do wonder if, like, because they're doing a lot to try and, like, promote positivity in the community, but, like, you can only do so much when you have an established game that has toxic online bros that say and do heinous things in the middle of a video game because that's all they've really got going on in their life. You can only do so much to really alleviate that, and this just feels like you're opening up the window for like a new thing for people that are completely innocent to like walk into because they've been sort of hamstrung by the system.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, there have been opportunities where I'm playing poorly because I'm learning a character, like famously when I first started learning Bastion, and I'd gotten pretty good at him. But like I was playing him in Overwatch 2 and didn't know it, and someone was like crapping on me, and you defended me. You're like, he's trying the character. He's not played this version. I think that there is a lot of online games have bad raps. I'd say Fortnite is honestly, it seems at least one of the more squeaky clean ones as far as, because it's just so broad and so many people play it. Whereas I feel like games like Valorant and Overwatch and League of Legends, like it's known that their communities can be toxic and the companies behind them aren't doing a lot to regulate it. And it is interesting that you bring up that this is just another wrinkle towards that. And it does worry me too. I ultimately want this game to be fun for the people I play with. And I don't play by myself. I don't solo queue much anymore because I prefer to play with my friends. But I am curious about what that experience in Overwatch 2 is going to look like versus previous games, because we have to assume there's going to be like a flood of new players, right? It's free to play. Anyone can download it. And I'm curious how that will affect one way or the other this community that has been sometimes the best of gaming and then oftentimes been the worst of gaming too. I'm curious how this influx of new players could affect that.
I mean, for a long time, there has been the paywall that has kept it kind of insulated in a way that it's about to not be, in a way that a lot of other games kind of have had people come and go with more ease than Overwatch has ever really been able to claim, except for when it had like a free-to-play weekend or something. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how things change, and I hope it's for the better. But I also, and given all my years both playing video games, just being online, I don't trust that it will.
Before we wrap up, I'm curious, like, what your hopes are now. So we've had this preview period. We've seen what this game is going to be, at least in its early stages. But we know there's more coming. There's a single player. There's more diversity, more characters. All of this stuff is in the works. Are you hopeful for the future of Overwatch 2? I know you love Overwatch 1. I know, like, putting the faults of Activision and Blizzard behind us for just a moment and just being a fan of Overwatch, are you hopeful for the future of this game? Because you've now, like me, been in the review period, had firsthand access to this game that you do love's next iteration. Do you think that Overwatch 2 is going to be this game that they keep promising us?
I'm of a few minds because I when they first announced this game back in 2019 at BlizzCon, they led with the story content and that co-op mode, and that was like I think I'd come into Overwatch just late enough to not really feel like burned by a lot of the stuff that game has done in terms of kind of just like shutting down support in a way that kind of did over the past few years, and like I wasn't there for launch, so a lot of the like rosy vision that I had of what this game was, or the people had of what the game was going to be at the time, wasn't really my business, I guess we'll call it. So by the time that Overwatch 2 was being announced and they were showing all the stuff, that was like leaning heavily into the stuff that I wanted, because I wanted a story. I was kind of, I enjoy the grind and the sort of meaningless quick play fun that we have, and that's all well and good. But I do want like just like a forward progression in all of this, and it is kind of insane at this point to think about things like Arcane on Netflix and all these other kind of like tie-ins that other companies are doing, and that Overwatch is just not done. Like Overwatch has been in stasis for so long that it's the prospect of like a new beginning and like a, kind of a fresh restart on everything for them to finally move forward and start really living up to the potential of what Overwatch is. All that's very exciting to me, but it's not here right now. Like that's the thing. It's like the thing that they first revealed this game with is not coming until next year, and so in a weird way, it feels like not much has really changed yet. And I guess we'll see, as time goes on and they start like doing these seasonal rollouts of new content for Overwatch 2, and hopefully that starts like at some point that's going to start manifesting in some story content. It feels like we are at least at this point on the track to finally maybe reach that potential. Whether we actually reach that remains to be seen.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree. I mean, I also was really excited about it. I like when playing Overwatch 1, we were able to do those like story modes where it's us versus hordes of bots, and like those are like tie into Blackwater and all the other stories that are there. And I feel like also, based on how closely I know you tie yourself to your favorite daddy, your favorite guy, Soldier 76, and like his queer story is important to you and his narrative is important to you. Tracer's queer narrative is also really important to me as a queer person. Like, these are two characters that have become the pillars of this game, at least. And they have become pretty well-known, famously queer characters in gaming. To think that we're... Like, I just hope that their stories and the stories itself explores more of these characters' backgrounds than just, hey, this character's gay now. Like, I mean, it's great to have that. But I think for me, I'm hopeful that as we progress through these games and we get more with Overwatch 2, that they lean more into that, get more intimate with the knowledge that we get to know about these characters. I mean, the shorts that they've made are incredible, but they weren't enough. And I'm optimistic to at least get to play this game with more people who might have, like, at one point, like, I have friends who played it when it first came out, and then when I finally got into it much later, they were like, we're over it. And like, I'm hoping some of those folks will come back and play with those friends that don't play anymore. But I agree with you. I think this seems like I get mad when people go, this is just Overwatch 0.2, like 1.2. And I get mad at that, but I do understand it to a bit because I agree. I feel like the battle pass is the biggest part of this. That's a change. The rest of it, like, feels minor in comparison to what they're promising us and what we're going to get next year, supposedly.
Yeah. And I think like I've kind of, I had various frustrations with that over the years, but I think now that the game is free to play and that there is like you're not paying money, I don't really think we need to get caught up in the semantics of what it is and more just kind of feel like what it offers. Like I think, when the idea was that we were going to be spending $60 or however much for a new game that was basically mostly the same. I felt like that frustration felt well merited, and I hope and I don't think it's going to go away, but I think that is just like where I'm at now. Like now that it's free to play, more or less replacing Overwatch 1. Semantics aren't really an interesting conversation point for me, I guess. I am more concerned about like what are they supporting this game in the form that it's now? Like, what are they going to do? Like, is it going to be a thing where the game starts to fall behind in the same way that Overwatch 1 did, or is this finally them kind of getting everything back on track to kind of be more relevant in the live game space? Because I think that's been its biggest issue for the longest time. For several years at this point now that whenever they stopped making content for Overwatch 1, I feel like that has been their biggest issue, is that they've stopped everything to work on this new game. And hopefully, now it can just be the thing that's continuously supported and not this future that we have to hope for.
Yeah. Ken, thank you for joining me. I knew that I wanted to talk about this preview, but also knew I could not articulate the details I'd really want to. And so I appreciate you tagging in for this.
Yeah, no problem.
Before we wrap up the show, I would love for you to tell folks where they can find you online. You are an incredible podcaster and writer, and I want folks to go check out all the stuff that you're doing. So please use this opportunity to plug your stuff.
You can find me on Twitter at ShepardCDR. You can find me every other week over at Normandy FM, which is once was BioWare retrospective podcast. It is now just a general retrospective podcast where we go through games book club style over the course of like several months to a year. We are in the middle of, as of this recording, Cyberpunk 2077. You're all Patreon subscribers who pay up to $5 or more get access to up to episode 12. I think we're on 12 out of 15. Not really writing anywhere consistently these days because RIP.
Yeah.
But yeah, this goes up tomorrow. So like on launch day of Overwatch 2, I do have some thoughts about the game and kind of Overwatch's queer future over at gamingmagazine.com. So that's the latest thing that I've written. As for what I write later, who's to say? I don't even know. This is freelance life, baby.
Yeah. R.I.P. the folks who got fucked over by Tencent, and that's our one F-bomb for the show. But thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate it, Ken. I love playing this game with you, and I really hope that it does have a bright future because I want this to be a success, regardless of how I feel about the broader scope of games in general. I'd like Overwatch 1, and I like Overwatch 2, what I've played of it, and I do want it to be successful. I'm just hesitant, but thank you for navigating this with me. If you want to check out all the stuff we're doing here at Fun and Games, you of course can reach out to us at Fun and Games Pod across the internet. You can also go to certainpov.com and join our Discord server. There's a permanent invite link there right for you. You can also send us your questions and comments at funandgamespod@gmail.com. This preview was a new thing for us. Jeff and I are trying to vary the content. We're trying to grow. We did a review a week ago that we're really proud of for Shovel Knight Dig, which was also a little out of our normal comfort zone. Let us know what you think about this. I know you're going to love what Ken did, obviously, but let us know what you think of this episode format. If you want us to preview some more stuff, I've been very grateful to be given access to some cool stuff that I want to promote, especially the smaller indie stuff. And so if you liked this format, want us to have more guest co-hosts, please let us know. I'm sure I'm forgetting stuff in the wrap-up, but with that, thank you all for being a part of this. Ken, thank you for being a part of this conversation, because it is a conversation, and we're so glad that you're all a part of it, and happy gaming.